Hello everyone, today we are talking pumpkins. Today is the day for my pumpkin tutorial. I'm so excited to show you how I take this, and turn it to this, and then even go further and go into this. Over the summer, I crocheted 7 of these for my mom. She owns a store and she wanted a bunch of pumpkins for the fall season. So I was very, very happy. And my main goal was to make 3 different sizes, a small, medium, and large, and play around and figure out how best to do that. And that's what I did. That's what I accomplished. I'm so excited. I also played with a lot of color this summer. I had lots of different fun pumpkins. And then just recently, I've been seeing a lot of people adding the yarn around to create a more textured pumpkin, and I love that too. So I experimented in this video and I really enjoy how it looks. This might be my new favorite way. I love this because it's my original pattern, but this just adding that little bit has added so much to it. So I'm so very excited. I also want to talk to you guys about a pumpkin revelation that I had. So stay tuned for the end of the video because I saw something that now my mind has exploded with ideas and I really want to know what you think. But let's get on to the video. I've got our small, I've got a medium, and then I've got my large here. I'm using my trusty acrylic worsted weight 4 yarn and my size 5mm hook to create these. But the numbers that I'm about to give you are, they can vary depending on what you like and what your preferences are. I picked everything the way that I thought it looked good, but obviously you can change that up. And then depending on if you're using double yarn, that changes the numbers. This is a medium pumpkin, but it ended up working quite bulky because I was holding 2 yarns together. This one here is a thinner yarn. This is actually a medium pumpkin, but it looks like a small because the yarn was just so much thinner. And then I experimented with bulky yarn, and this is also a medium pumpkin, but it's much bigger than the medium size. So depending on your supplies, depending on your tools, will change the outcome of the pumpkin, but I'm hoping that I can provide you with a lot of the basics so that you can figure out how exactly you want your pumpkin to look. We work all the pumpkins flat first before we join them up together. We do the smalls with a row of 12. So the first thing you want to do is you want to chain 14. The 12 is what we're going to be using, but the 2 extra is actually what we need to create the height of the half double crochet stitch. Then you want to half double crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook. We're kind of ignoring the first 2. That's just needed to create the height of the half double crochet stitch. And then we're working those 12 rows as half double crochet. So that is like the beginner row. And then here comes the 2nd row. So then you want to chain 2 because we need to have those 2 stitches to create the height of our half double crochet stitch. But now what we're going to do is we're going to start working through the back loop only. That creates the wonderful ridges here. Right there. So work through the back loop only, and you want to work all 12 of those rows. You want to keep doing that until you get to the size that you want. For me, I'm just looking down at my notes quickly. That was about 6.5 inches or 15 rows all together. A great way to tell this too is by taking your swatch and folding it in half. That'll give you an estimate of how your pumpkin is going to look once it's all sewn together. I like making sure that it's wider than it is taller, but also keeping in mind too that once we cinch the top and the bottom together, you are going to be losing some of that height as well. So this is where I say you can kind of play around with the pattern a little bit, because depending on the size that you want and depending on how you actually want your pumpkin to look, the numbers can change. For the medium pumpkin, we're actually working along 17 stitches. You actually want to crochet 19 in total. The 2 on the end are just used to create the height you needed for the half double crochet stitch. So again, same thing with the small, you want to chain or you want to do your first half double crochet into the 3rd stitch from the hook. Crochet all around, make it the size you want. The size that I found worked really well was between 9 and 9.5 inches, or about 18 rows. Now again, that depends on the yarn you're using. This bulky one, same pattern, but I found I had to stop at 14 rows because it was just getting way too big. So like I said, it really depends on your tools. The large pumpkin is a cast on of 27, so we're actually working the 25 across, but 27 because we need those 2 extras for half double crochet stitch. And I worked them to be about 19 inches or about 28 rows. And that's for this guy right here. So everything is flat, and this is kind of where my idea comes in, but I'm going to discuss that a little bit later. But everything is worked flat, so now we need to sew it together. Before you cut off your yarn, make sure it's a really long tail, because that's what we're going to be using to go up the side of our pumpkin, to cinch the top, to cinch the bottom, and to do fun stuff if we want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew up the sides. I find it best to kind of fold the piece together, and then you want to work through the back loop. I guess it's the front loop if you're facing it towards you. You want to work at the front loop of the back row towards the front. I have pictures so that you can kind of see how I do it, and I just sew along the sides. And then once I get to the bottom or top, you want to kind of weave in your hook or weave in your needle all the way around so that you can cinch it closed. I just sew up everything just to make sure it's all nicely closed. I take that yarn and I kind of shove it through the pumpkin and bring it to so that it's kind of through the bowl. It looks like a bowl now. You want to stuff your pumpkin, and then with the same yarn you want to cinch around the top, close everything tight, sew it all up, and that is kind of creating now this big disc type donut. Let's just call it a donut. Then what I do is I like to take the rest of the yarn that I have here, I take it from the top, I put it all the way to the bottom, I come back in through a different spot, and I'm kind of cinching and pulling everything together and making it nice and beautiful and pumpkin shape. Once it's all together and once it's the shape that you like, you can then take that yarn, cut it off, or you can create the baubles. So at this point, this is my first design, so that is where I would stop and then I'd create the stem. But for the these lovely little baubles, you want to take your yarn then and you want to kind of just follow along where it seems like a natural string would go. You want to bring it around now, back through the bottom, and then pull it up to the top, cinch it, and then you want to kind of just create lots of large bumps. I don't like to measure this. I like to go random. I feel like pumpkins are the one vegetable that is quite quirky and can be many different shapes, many different sizes, so I don't think there's a right or wrong here. I also want to mention that in my swatches here of the different sizes that you can see, I actually made a mistake and I was crocheting 27 along with a pumpkin, so I switched it back down to 25. But I'm not changing that swatch because that is just going to add quirkiness to my pumpkin. Pumpkins are not perfect, and so I think there's really room to play around with having different size swatches and just kind of seeing just exactly how much character we can give each pumpkin. So once you have the shape of your pumpkin and it's desired, it's time to make the stem. And the stem is very cool because I think it looks really, really good. I feel like there's a lot of texture. It actually looks like a big, thick that was growing off a vine. So I'm really, really happy with that. It starts off with a magic loop. You want to do 6 half double crochets into a magic loop, single stitch together and make it a perfect circle, and then we're chaining 2. Now this is where it gets kind of interesting and fun. So we're gonna do half double crochets again, but we're not going through the individual stitch. We're actually going through around the post. I took a lot of videos to hopefully best explain this, but we're doing it around the post. And that's what creates this wonderful texture here, because we're not building it straight, we're kind of giving it a little bit of a twist and adding a little bit of depth and texture along the side. So we want to go around the stem 6 times because we're working through the 6, go around every single post. Then you just keep on doing that until it's the height that you want. I find that the small pumpkins actually work out with just me doing it twice around. So I'm going around 6, going around 6 again. For the medium ones, it tends to be about 4. And then for this big tall guy, he was about 6. Let me just confirm that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, he was about 6. But again, you can play around. There was one pumpkin here that wanted to be really lopsided. This one. Was it this? Was it this? Yeah, it was you. So this one, see, his little center is actually facing sideways, which means that I actually have another extra row here. So I didn't complete the row going all the way around, but it adds a little bit of, again, quirkiness. Then you want to sew the stem onto the top of your pumpkin, making sure that green yarn is wrapped around and carefully woven in place. There's nothing else green, so you need to make sure your ends are tucked in well so that nobody can see the green. I like to bring the yarn all the way down again just to make sure it's nice and secure. And then you've got your pumpkins, and you can make so many different kinds. I really love it. Like I said, these are my original. So I really love them for that, but I definitely do think that adding the yarn along the side really adds much more character to it. So I think I'll be kind of going this route for the future. And I also wanted to know that when working with bulky yarn, the yarn snaps really easily. So make sure you don't pull as tightly as you would with a worsted weight, with acrylic worsted weight. So yeah, those are my pumpkins, and I'm really, really happy, and I hope I explained everything well. Now to my little sidebar. So on Instagram, I saw a lovely lady posted a granny square pumpkin. It's beautiful. I will put it here so you guys can see what it looks like. Seeing that has kind of made my imagination soar. If I'm working my pumpkins as a basically rectangle swatches and then we're sewing them together, in my mind, it seems like we could almost be doing anything with our pumpkins. I could be crocheting and using many different patterns for those swatches. So now my mind is going, if we can do granny squares, we can also do chevron, we can also do moss stitch, we can also do corner to corner, we could also do a cabled knitted pumpkin. My mind is going and I'm very, very excited. So I'm curious, is this an old thing? Like, am I just been living underneath a rock and I haven't thought of creating different textures along the pattern? Maybe there's a reason why we don't do it. Like with the granny square, I imagine the holes would have to be smaller so you don't see your stuffing. But maybe this is just a great opportunity now to play with texture. So I'm super, super excited and my imagination is soaring. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please reach out if you have any questions. Take care. Bye.